welcome to Conversations. We're so grateful that you decided to be a part of our show on today. And of course, we want to say thank you so much to the executive producer of the show, our great man of God, Pastor Tony Smith. We love you, man of God. We are talking today, ladies, about traveling. So if you are planning to travel or you haven't traveled, take a little travel walk with us today on today's show as we discuss some great places to travel, and we give some candid moments about maybe where we've been and some of the experiences that we've had in our travels. And we're talking about traveling overseas, traveling to different states, and so on. So ladies, I think some of you here have gone to a few great places. Let's talk about this. What's your favorite country, city, or state that you've traveled to?
Well, I'll start.
Go ahead, Elder Sutton.
Mine is Paris.
Ooh,
I really enjoyed Paris.
Tell us about it.
Oh, it was so awesome. The buildings, oh my God, the buildings are so beautiful. It was nothing low down. Everything was high. The streets, you come up the different way. You know, like we go this way, they come this way. Yeah, and then I also saw that it's a lot of cars that some of them had the steering wheel on the other side. You know, it's not on the side like ours. That was really fascinating, and it was just fun. It's expensive, but it was fun. It was so much fun. The people talk fun. Everybody treats you real good. We did tours, and we went through all the cities. It is so awesome. We got on a boat, and oh my God, it's just awesome over there. I enjoyed it.
I want to go. Okay, Elder Chantal. I know you've been around the world.
So I agree with Elder Sutton. I would want to stay in London, though. I would like to stay in London. London was really nice, but it's only 3 hours from Paris, so I can just jump on a train if I wanted to go to Paris. But I think London would be a place that I would love to be. I've been a few places, but I think London is the place that I love. It's very nice. Now, the only thing that you don't like about London, the sun doesn't come out as often as it should. It's always cloudy, but the people are very nice. You don't hear about much crime happening in London. It's very quiet. People get along with everyone. The food has its ups and downs, but it's London would be the spot for me.
So I've been around a little bit. It's 2 trips that stand out the most in my mind, and the one that tops it all would be to Ghana. I went to Ghana, and I went with a teacher from nursing school. She had a small group, and that experience, it almost changed my life. Like, it was just seeing, like, walking in, they had something called the Slave River, and they called it the last bath, just putting my feet in that, where the slaves would wash before they had to walk all these miles to the slave houses. And like, it was so much culture, so much history, so much that I absorbed while there. I was only there maybe 2.5 weeks, and I could have stayed longer. The people, so beautiful, so friendly, but then there was another side of people who like, oh, you're American, what you doing here? Like, I felt that. I went, and the year to return, that was 2019, so it was like this big thing. I didn't even know I was part of it. It was called the Year of the Return because in Ghana at a certain point, the slaves went through a door, and it said the door of no return. Like, once they went through that door, they knew they was not coming back home. They'd never see homeland again. So when you go through that door, as you're looking back, it'll say now the door of return. And 2019 was supposed to be the year that like a pilgrimage was made, where a lot of us came back to just touch foot on the motherland. It was extraordinary. Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. And that's so good because, you know, the stigma, like, oh, well, it's Africa, but it's so many beautiful places in Africa.
Beautiful places. We stayed at luxury hotels, had air-conditioned vehicles, went to all these different markets. Now, it's a lot of hustling out there. When people get out there and they will, you know, try to sell their stuff. You see the people with the baskets on the head. I'm like, what in the world? How do they balance this stuff? But like they make it work. You see so many colors, and more than just Africans there. So it's so many cultures there as well. And I'm learning that a lot of people go there to retire. A lot of like Black Americans, they will go there to retire because the money is much longer. It goes further there. Yeah, so it's just a lot. Beautiful.
For me, I haven't traveled internationally yet, so all of my experiences have been domestic. I have this tradition now that I have like my own place, and I've been like collecting ornaments for my Christmas tree. So every state I go to, I get an ornament for each state, so that like when I take time with my nieces and nephews, because we like put the tree up together and things like that, it's a tradition to be like put it up and then talk about like, oh, I got this from Vegas, or I got this from, you know, LA, and then to talk about that experience. Like it's really cool. So I'm happy about that. I've been to a lot of states. I would say that my favorite so far would be California, and it's not necessarily LA because I only spent like a day in LA. I was in Palm Springs, but it was just beautiful. I think that it's different being from the East Coast and then going west, and just like the weather's different. It just seems brighter, like the trees. And it's a lot to do. And that was like my first solo trip. So I like to go with people, of course, have a nice experience. Like, who's going to take my pictures? It's like, it's like, just kidding. But it's fun to go with others. But also, it's this peace that comes with traveling by yourself, because you can get up when you want. You can go in, you know, as you please and do the things that you want to do. And then I think that that's like, my first trip was like a really like a God trip. Like I was able to like, unplug and just really like focus on me and him and like what is he saying to me in this season. It was like a rough season, but it was like really good to be able to have that time to myself and not feel guilty about like, oh, why didn't you bring me in, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, I took like surf lessons. I sucked. I didn't like learn how to do it. I feel like if I spent the whole week taking the lessons, maybe, been working on my upper body strength so that I can jump up. And then like I'm challenged by heights. So I'm not gonna say I'm afraid of heights, but like it takes a lot for me to do things that's like with height. So I got on this trolley that took me to like the top of this mountain, and I like cried the whole time. But it was good tears, because it was like, I'm actually doing this. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, God, you're with me. So I was like really aware of God's presence, because it's like, if I fall, like I'm gonna see you soon. But it was good. It was like a test of my faith. Like, I can do this. It was just a great trip. Like, I definitely would go back. I would say the people, have, in my experience, I'm not gonna say everybody, but they have like this air about themselves, like they like they don't see you, you know. Like I feel like here we can be rude here in Baltimore especially, but I think that there's still like this southernness to us, like we're welcoming, and like people will talk to you randomly on the street. My experience in California, it was like I didn't exist. It's like people will walk past you, and it's like they're so self-consumed, I would say. Compared to like me traveling south, where people like that southern hospitality, like you're being embraced, and it's okay, this is different. So it is interesting to see like the different parts of the United States, like how the people are so different and how they embrace you.
Next time you go traveling by yourself, you take a tripod, and the tripod will take the pictures for you, and it comes with a remote.
I will say I did, but California gets so hot, like your phone will cut off because it's so hot. Like if you're in the middle of the desert. Well, I know in Palm Springs, because when I went to LA, the breeze from the water, it was cooler. But Palm Springs, like my phone literally cut off.
Wow.
Because it was so hot. And another thing I'll say that was different is like being from the East Coast. You know, it was cloudy, it was like gray, and I was just like, oh, I went to the Welcome Center, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be a bad storm. And he was like, oh no, that's smoke, like it's a wildfire. And I'm like, what? Like I could have been driving into a fire. Like this is stuff you don't think about being from the other side of the country. Like I'm thinking it's about to rain, and they're like, no, that's smoke from a wildfire. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So that's a culture shock for me. I would say.
Okay, well that leads to my next question. We're gonna talk about culture shocks. What are some of your biggest culture shocks as you've traveled around the world?
I want to say my most recent trip was to Dubai. Dubai was beautiful. Dubai was luxury. Dubai was rules. Rules, yeah. So as a tourist, you're allowed certain freedoms. Like I didn't have to cover up all the time. And it's not like a country where women are like out there. But as a tourist, I had certain freedoms. But when I went to Abu Dhabi, that's the capital of the United Arab Emirates, and I went to visit a mosque, you have to cover up. You have to, it's called an abaya. I didn't bring anything because I knew they said you can purchase there, and I purchased it's a long gown. It's like you cover up, it snaps from head to toe, and it had the thing to put on my head because once you enter their sacred places, you are subject to everything. So they had different checkpoints, like dress checkpoints. Wow. So that was like, okay, it's not like a club check. Okay, no jeans, no tennis shoes, something like. No, is your dress long enough? And so when I got to the third one, one of the women, she was like, "You're showing too much leg." I said, "Ma'am, I purchased this, out front." They said I was okay. She said, "No, it's a gap." So she made me go around to the store, get a pen, had to put the pen in, and I came back through. She's like, "Thank you. Now you're appropriate." And like you said, it's hot. It's in the desert. My phone did, after so many pictures, I had to turn it off. Because I was like, oh, no. It was like over 100 degrees. I went in the season where, tourists typically don't go, but it was, my price. But it was beautiful, the architecture, the buildings, the scenery. The people were all very friendly. And as a tourist, it's a great place to go.
Anybody else have any great big culture shocks as they traveled?
Well, the only thing, I went to California to visit my son, and he lives in Fullerton. It's right by Anaheim. There are hardly any black people, and it's like Oriental people, Spanish and all that. That's what's up there, and they don't talk to you. But if you driving or if you walking and you see a black person, it's like they saw Jesus. Hey, they be going off. And my son kept saying, "Ma, you see how they act?" He said, "You see how the black people act because they don't see black people that often. So when they do, they just really just carry on about it." But it was so awesome up there. So awesome up there. For 3 weeks I was there, and I really enjoyed it. I went some places, but like I say, people don't talk to you. They don't, you walk past, you say, no, they just keep on going.
Now, we talked about our favorite places, but let me ask this. If you could live any place in the world, and we know Baltimore is a special place. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live, and tell me why?
I'll go first. Go ahead. I would live here. I would live here in Baltimore. Hence why I'm still here. Baltimore for me, Maryland is family for me. So it's like I could travel anywhere. And it'll be a great experience, but at some point I'm homesick. Like I miss my family, I miss my friends, I miss my bed, I miss my routine. And then it's a lot of stuff to do here. Like I think that we tend to get in our routines, like, oh, Baltimore, if you're east side, you stay over east, you barely go, unless you have fertile family on the west side, like you don't really travel, and vice versa. But it's so much, even outside of Baltimore, like different parts of Maryland, like you could go 3 hours west and be in the mountains in Frostburg, or you can go 3 hours east and then be, south kind of, and be on the eastern shore, like by the beach. It's just so much to do, and I think that we haven't, in my experience, a lot of people haven't seen the greatness of the 44, I think it's 44 counties. I only know this because I had to travel to see children in foster care, and I had to go to all these different counties, but it's so pretty. Like you wouldn't even think that you're still in Maryland or, Baltimore if you're traveling throughout Maryland, so. Yeah.
Well, I would say Baltimore as well. I've been here 73 years. Only time I thought about moving somewhere was when I went to see my son. And I'm still making decisions. I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to go. Don't listen, Pastor. I'm trying to make a decision whether I'm going to go to California to live. But Baltimore is it. I love Baltimore. I mean, it's crime, but that's everywhere, too. It's just not as, as much.
Okay, Minister Rachel.
Well, I'm still exploring because I figure I need somewhere nice to retire where my money will take me a long ways, but God has all of that planned out, so He'll lead me in the right way. But I would be venturous and want to settle somewhere out of the country, maybe. I really did enjoy. That's my parents. They shake their head no. I'm like, it'll be fine. I'm going in Jesus' name, coming back the same. But like Ghana really did make an impact on me. It really did, the sense of community. But I don't know how it would be because I'm considered an outsider. So from my eyesight, from what I saw, I love their sense of community, their sense of togetherness, their sense of cooperation, working together, and how they manage things, the beauty of it. But I'm still exploring. I got a whole lot more of this world to see before I make a decision.
Yes.
Elder.
It would not be Baltimore.
I
Sorry,
agree
it
with
would not
that.
be Baltimore. I don't really have a lot of family here. Like, it's just my mother and my church family, so I don't have big families like you all have. My son lives in California right now, so if I could choose, I would ask the Lord if it would be possible for me to just live 6 months in one country, 6 months in another country. Maybe something like that would be great. You know, I mean, I don't have any little kids. I don't have any grandkids right now, you know, so I just feel like, yeah, I mean, if I had the opportunity just to explore, I don't want to settle in one place. I want to be able to move around. So if I can do 6 months one place, 6 months another place, that'd be good. So maybe 6 months in Cali and then maybe another 6 months in London would be good for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Not Baltimore, though. Will not be here. Shade to y'all.
Now, when you travel, do you like? I know Toya, you mentioned you like to travel. You like to travel. You've traveled by yourself, and that was like a peaceful moment for you. But do you, as a rule, do you all like to travel by yourself, or do you like to do it with a group of friends?
I like to travel alone. And the reason why, because like Toya said, you can, now I'm a person, I like to get to the airport extra early. I like to get there like 3 hours early. And there are a lot of people who don't like to do that, but I'm an early person anyway. So I want to do things on my time. I want to get up when I'm ready to get up. If I want to go to the mall, I want to go to the mall. I don't want nobody to say, I want to stay asleep for another hour before we go to the mall. If I want to go go-kart riding, I want to go go-kart riding. I don't want somebody to say, I don't want to mess up my shoes if we go go-kart riding. So it's just a lot of things. I'm sure if you have a person, a girlfriend who's like, just like you, like, okay, you know, I could take this person with me, we can go. But I think going by yourself is easier. You may be lonely, you know, but, you know, it's cool. I mean, when I go to California, I forget my son is there sometimes because I'll be about doing my thing because I know the way, I know the area, I know where I'm going. But yeah, I think traveling by yourself is good. Having a girlfriend there is okay, but I like being by myself, so.
I've been blessed with that girlfriend. So I met someone in nursing school, and we've been traveling ever since. So I have a steady travel buddy. So I traveled the world with her. We've traveled in groups with travel agents, but we've done trips on our own. So like the Dubai trip was with her, and it was just the two of us. And God was with us. He worked everything out, but we're like-minded, but we're also different. So I like that free early breakfast. She likes to sleep in. So we do. So we get along so well that we have space to do things on our own, but enjoy our time together, sightseeing and everything like that. So we don't get on each other's nerves.
Well, I like to travel with someone. I'm not a loner. I like to be with people, and my travel buddy supposed to be sitting up here today, but she's not here, and she got married. And now she doesn't want to travel as much. But I just talked to her yesterday. I'm like, when we going on a trip? And she came up with something. But anyway, Matrix. I called you out on conversations. We need to travel again. I love to travel with her. She's real fun.
So when y'all travel, do you plan your vacations yourselves? Like you go on the internet and you book all the travel, or do you get a travel agent? And what do you think is the best thing to do, especially with the cost and fees and things like that?
For me, location kind of determines. So when she's been wanting to get to Africa, and I said, I don't think that should be a just me and you trip. I think we need us a little group. And playing around, I said, you better hit up our old teacher, because she travels to Ghana frequently just to see if she's doing one, and she was. I'm like, look at this. Okay, so, but for the most part, we'll try to look on our own and then see what we can find, and then we'll also touch base with the travel agent to see if their rates are better, or because cost is a big part for me. Like if I can't fund it, I'm not going.
I book my own flight. I mean, I don't get a travel agent. Now, if I was going to Ghana or Dubai or something, I'll probably get a travel agent because I've never been there. So I think you need to have the security to make sure the person who's booking you is aware of the area, right? You don't want to travel somewhere and you don't have any protection, I guess, if that's the right thing to say. But I just go on my app and book a flight and get a rental car and a hotel all together and just go, just go.
Well, I need a travel agent. I had a hard time just booking my flight to California. I had to have Paula, my daughter. I had to have my son. Everybody was helping me get my flight. I did not know what I was doing, but I need a travel agent. I did.
You need the extra help. So, what about you?
I haven't used the travel agent yet, but I plan to. Like, I want to take like this Holy Land trip, but I think that if you want to go, let me know. If you, because I feel like it's a place that you don't want to go without having that guidance, especially if you're going by yourself. Like, one, you want to see all the different sites, but also like traveling internationally, you know, just with like sex trafficking or like not being familiar with different cultures and things like that. I just wouldn't feel safe in doing it by myself. So in those instances, I would get an agent, but like domestically, I just do everything myself, really. It could just be, especially like the East Coast, like, oh, I'm gonna go to a Wizards game in New York, or I'm gonna or a concert here, like I'll just drive, or I'll just take the bus. I'm gonna take the bus, or the train, or I'll just fly. Like I'll do it myself.
So traveling, let me ask this: how often do y'all think a person, especially women, who should travel? Well, I shouldn't say especially women, but I'm a little biased because I'm a woman, especially us single moms. How often should we travel? How often should a person rest and travel? How necessary, tongue-tied, is it for us to do that?
I would say in some cases an unrealistic goal, but if you could travel like once a season or like a quarter of the year, if it's feasible to do so and like your responsibilities or you have the time, I aspire to do that. My supervisor, like one of my jobs I had, like my first job, it was always like work, and I had like all of this time, and I even felt guilty with like taking the time, and then when I left that job, they only cashed me out like a certain amount, and then the rest of it is kind of like just sitting there. Like if I were to go back, I would get it again. But that's something that I learned from that experience, because when I came to my current job, my former supervisor was just saying they only give you a certain amount of time and if you exceed it, they force you to take it, because the plan is that the hope is that you will take a certain amount of days each quarter. It's kind of like making you rest, making you travel, make you not get so consumed in the work. So that's something like I am making that boundary. Like even if I'm not traveling, I'm resting, I'm taking my time. Because that's something I didn't do. So I would say I would want to do it quarterly or each season. I'm at minimum twice a year, or the very minimum once a year, if possible.
Okay.
Girl, get out. Well, let me tell you, my employer, my company sends emails and tells us to take a vacation. They tell us, use your PTO time. They believe in work-life balance. They don't want us always working. They tell you, if you have the time, take the time. Our HR person sends us emails all the time about burnouts. We just had a flyer that came out last week about we don't want people being burnt out. So I feel like if you have that time to use, and I agree, because I have so much time racked up, and I'm a very strong person in my job. So, and I don't feel guilty, but I have so much responsibility that as soon as I leave that responsibility, I feel like it's going to be so much more work on top of what I already have to do. So I feel like, I do take the time, but I say if you are able to afford, that's the thing. If you're able to afford to take at least 2 or 3 times a year, I would say go for it, especially during the holiday season. Even if you're home chilling with your family, your nieces and nephews, with your parents or whatever. If you just want to take a day trip, 2-day trips, I just say if you can afford 2 or 3, great. If you can just do 1 time a year, just make sure you use your time and make sure you take the time for you during that self-care moment.
Well, my job, the time doesn't come as easy for me. So the more I work, the more time I can get. So I find myself picking up shifts because I know I have trips in mind. So I'm like, I know in December I want to take some time, so I need to pick up a couple extra shifts so that it can build up. I wish it was like an abundance, but for me, it doesn't come as easy. But the money also plays a good part too, because it helps to fund the trip. So it's like it's cohesive. But like just take a couple days just for self-care, I usually do solo. I will book me a room somewhere, and I will get in my car, and I'm gone. I'll let certain people know I'm here. If you need to reach me, or if you need to pop in just to be sure I'm here, this is where I am, and I'm just taking a couple days for me. Yeah.
Good. Now, when you guys are on your trips, what about like the events, like the fun stuff? You know, the excursions, as they call them on the cruises and stuff. Do you guys plan that ahead of time, or do you kind of like go with the flow?
Oh, usually we plan ahead of time.
Okay.
So if I'm going like to a certain destination, we'll look on certain sites to see what's available in the area. We'll look at pricing. We'll try to book those whatever we can ahead of time, and then leave time for stuff like we might see once we get there, or just if we just need a couple days to rest. I was a big cruiser before the pandemic. I love cruising because for me, it seemed like you get more bang for your buck, but you don't get the quality of each port because you're only there for a few hours. So we would book our excursions for each port. Like if I'm going to St. Lucia, I'm ziplining there, I'm ATVing there, I'm swimming with the dolphins here in Honduras, you know, whatever. So I like to plan ahead and leave a couple days to maybe go with the flow.
I just plan once I get there. Yeah, whatever I want to do. When I see the little things popping up, I just plan for it.
I want to go on a cruise though. I'm just a little afraid because of the boat. Never done it. I'm just afraid because of this. You know how it
Motion
goes,
sickness?
the motion.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just a
not.
little.
The boats are
Maybe.
huge. They're like little cities. Like you can get lost.
I've heard it's nice, but we'll see. I don't know.
The motion sickness, don't worry about that, because when I went on my first cruise, my sister gave me all of this stuff to take. You're going to need this because you're going to get sick. And I bought it all back unopened. It's not, and my little partner, she said, I know you scared a little bit. I said, yeah, I never been on a cruise. She said, let's go on the top floor. She said, the boat getting ready to take off. So we went to the top. She said, sit down. I said, sit down for what? What I come up here for? So I leaned over the boat looking like, did what she did. And after that, everything was okay. At night when you sleep in the bed, be doing that there sometime, but it's okay. I've been on a cruise about 3 times now. It's awesome. It is.
Toya, what you think? Do you plan ahead, or do you?
I plan ahead.
Okay.
Like I leave room for things that I see as I go, but I always want to maximize my time there. So I try to see, okay, what are the things to do here? And plus I like museums. So everywhere I go, I'm going to find a museum. And oftentimes they're free. If not, like I'll pay for it, but I love museums. So I'm definitely going to plan ahead so I can know which one to go to.
And when y'all come back from your vacations, do y'all feel like y'all got to rest from the vacation?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Take a
No, yeah. I'm learning to be better with that. Like taking a day to just regroup. People don't unpack until like weeks later, if then. But like just to take that day instead of going straight back to work because it is such an adjustment. Yeah.
I take a rest from my rest.
Right. So I got from this. I get. You also need to, as Toya said, she took the peace vacation. The mental time. Take those vacations. Then you take the vacation where it's like we're gonna go out. We just gonna do everything. So we could continue on with the show, but we want to acknowledge the man of God, Pastor Tony Smith. Thank you so much for allowing us to have this show. We like to travel here at Victorious Ministries. If you haven't traveled to Baltimore, we invite you to come and be a part of our ministry. You can. Y'all like how I did that? How I segued that into it. Come and be a part of our services, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. on Sundays, Wednesdays, 12 and 6 p.m. There is a whole nother world out here that we have yet to explore, and traveling is a great thing. So we should pray this show has blessed you and that you take the time to travel, enjoy life, and yourself. We'll see you next time for more conversation.